and I built the most wealth I've ever seen, in my life. So I had a lot of family members going to prison, and for me, like, I was getting involved with a lot of the wrong influences, including, like, the drug lifestyle. Started selling drugs and carrying guns and all of that. Just like kind of like the nerdy kid. I was in the Pokemon.
Ain't nothing wrong with it, because I'm here catching Pokemons myself.
Just kids, starting to represent gangs in elementary school.
Eli here from Urban Lifestyle. And I also got Darrell here from the Money Level Shows. How's everything going, Darrell?
It's going well, man. We just stacking this wealth, man. Feeling good. We ain't scrambling trying to take care of an emergency and stuff. So just applying these principles.
Exactly. Now, Darrell, this is not a structured conversation. We're just gonna we're just gonna wing it. Just have a little conversation, talking about your background a little bit, and your thoughts about money and financial stuff, and how you received your financial education. Looking at your background, I know you personally. We have a similar background. My background itself, a kid who had to teach himself how to read in his 20s, sold drugs, dabbled in the music industry a little bit, and then had mentors in his life that really cared about him. I'm talking about myself here. And just decided, hey, listen, I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired of being check bills broke. And I'm just like, hey, listen, this is not the life for me. And then I had to dive into the books, listen to mentors, listen to people who in life who has stuff that I wanted, whether it be finance, whether it be the life that they're living, stuff that I wanted, and just propelled myself to another level. And I see the same thing in you. And I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about finance. Is that good?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, let's get in it.
All right. So, Darrell, just give us a little bit of your background.
So a little bit about my background. Grew up Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Grew up on the east side. I was one of those Kendrick Lamar kind of stories, good kid, Mad City, surrounded by a lot of gangs. And, I recall just kids, starting to represent gangs in elementary school, and being walking down the street, asking what set you claim, and, all of that type of stuff. And so my mom's was a single mother, 5 kids, didn't really have a whole lot of support, but she worked her ass off, and just kind of just wanted to support her kids. And so eventually, just after growing up in that neighborhood, and in that environment, I had a lot of family members going to prison, getting into gangs and drugs and stuff. And I was just like kind of like the nerdy kid. I was in the Pokemon. I call it Pokemon. I'm just playing.
Speaking of that, ain't nothing wrong with it, because I'm here catching Pokemons myself, man. I'm playing Pokemon Go, so you ain't the only one.
Yeah, I was really into Pokemon, man. I was into video games and stuff. I wasn't really into the streets. But, my pops, he was around somewhat. He wasn't around as much as he should, or as much as I needed him. So we ended up moving just out of that neighborhood, out of Oklahoma, and moved up to Washington State, where I ended up graduating high school. And, during that time, it was like kind of weird, because it was like, single mom trying to raise a boy into a man. And for me, like, I was getting involved with a lot of the wrong influences, including, like, the drug lifestyle. Started selling drugs and carrying guns and all of that. And I did that for about a good 6 years until, I turned 23. I had my encounter with Christ, and, became a Christian, and just started really just trying to live my life right and be a part of my son's life and stuff. Then, it was kind of just like trying to catch back up to, where I should have been. I mean, some kids in my college or in my high school, they were 23, 24. They already had their lives started, buying houses in college, finished college, starting careers. Some kids didn't. I was kind of the camp that didn't, because I started, just living that lifestyle and not really reaping any rewards from it, but just taking a lot of risk. And so I ended up, started working, just little temporary jobs. I was really struggling during that time. I was about 24, just working temp jobs, trying to pay child support, trying to, catch back up. And I didn't really complain about it because I knew it was like a result of my actions, that I had to go through that pain, to just make up from the actions that I did. And so I never complained about it. Even, up to 2000, this was around 2012, 2013. I began working at a nonprofit. I was doing outreach with homeless and at-risk youth. I was working part-time. However, that wasn't enough income for me, even though I loved the work. I loved being able to make an impact on the community because I did so much damage to the community, when I was selling drugs and stuff. And so I just really wanted to make that back, pay it forward. And then I got a part-time job at Wendy's. This was around 2013. I was flipping burgers on the grill. I was just like, I had to swallow my pride and kind of just see how I can make this work. So I was working 2 part-time jobs while I was in college too. I ended up finishing college and was able to work full-time in the social work industry, with homeless teens. Went on to become a juvenile probation counselor for 4 years, where I was working with kids in the juvenile system. And, and that was kind of like, a step up from where I was, so I was able to make a little more money, but I was still in a rat race, Mm-hmm. And I got introduced to Dave Ramsey around 2017. A friend paid for me and my wife to go through the course. We started on the Dave Ramsey, paying off debt and got to a better position and stuff. And then, what I noticed was that I didn't have balance. And me not having balance just caused me to relapse into just poor financial habits again, even though I had the knowledge. And so eventually, because I do music too. So it's I was spending a lot of money on music, and it wasn't profitable, but I was taking money off the family's table, off the table to pretty much try to, live this rap career or whatnot. And it wasn't putting food on the table. And so I ended up, 2020, I was kind of just living that way and stuff. And then I was dabbling in the stock market back in 2017, 2018, was dabbling with crypto and stuff. And then, my poor financial habits just caused me to stop. I didn't know what I was investing in. I didn't understand it. Dave Ramsey says just buy mutual funds and just forget about it. So it was kind of just I just went to that mode again. And then 2020, the pandemic hit. I saw a lot of people losing their jobs. I saw a lot of people really just, around me going on unemployment. And I was just like, man, what's going to happen at my job? I'm the youngest employee here. I ain't been there that long. Some people been there 10, 15, 20 years. And I was just like, man, I don't even know what's going to happen. So I started by just reading Rich Dad Poor Dad while we were on lockdown. The book was sitting on my bookshelf for 3 years. My old landlord gave it to me. Ironically, she was just like, you should check out Rich Dad Poor Dad, because they did some buy and hold properties and stuff. And so I ended up reading it, and it just woke me up, and I started just kind of watching Robert Kiyosaki on his channel, and then some of the people that he would bring on. And then that's how I got introduced to a lot of the other financial people out there, George Gammon, Peter Schiff, Lynn Alden, and everybody. And I just started consuming just hours upon hours of their stuff and just applying some of those methods to start building wealth. And even working little part-time jobs on the side while I'm working full-time, just really focused on building wealth. And then started my channel back in October, and I built the most wealth I've ever seen, in my life. So since then, and so I'm looking to just keep going up from there.
Gotcha. And yeah, speaking of the channel, I remember when you first started out, and I think I wouldn't say I'm the first interview you had on there, but I remember you hitting me up, and I think you had I would like to say maybe between 20 to 50 subscribers. Mm-hmm. And now, I think it's a year later, you're over 1,000 subscribers, and that's awesome. And looking at the stuff that you've been doing on the channel, we're talking about you had Jim, a hip hop, in my opinion, a hip hop legend, because I remember him from 106 in Park. You had Peter
Yep.
Schiff on there. You had a whole bunch of names on there. And I'm like, man, how's this guy getting in touch with these people? Like, man, this guy's doing stuff I can't even
Yeah.
do. Like,
Well,
so
I ain't get Peter Schiff on there yet, but hopefully someday. I did do a video on some of his stuff though, but we
gotcha,
definitely
gotcha,
had some legends on there for sure.
gotcha. But name some of them off, because I'm probably getting the names wrong.
Yeah, so we had Rick Rule. He's a famous natural resource investor. Was with Sprott, for a while. We had Jim Rogers on. Jim Rogers has been a returning guest. He's on for the third time, which I currently released a clip today or yesterday. So he's been coming on, which he, helped co-found the Soros Fund with George Soros, multi-million-dollar man, like in the hundreds of millions. So he's on there spreading some of his knowledge. We've had Lynn Alden. She's pretty famous. She got her fame this year, last year and this year. And I saw her Twitter grow from 40,000 followers to over 200,000 followers on Twitter, and I was tapping into a lot of the stuff she was talking about early. And so those are just a few names. Garrett Soloway's been on. He's a famous trader in the money. He's on In the Money stocks, and I've subscribed to some of his services and made some money and stuff. And so it's cool. We have some cool people on there. Justin Hume talks about uranium a lot. So yeah, we've had some people, and recently Wendy Day. She's a big, well-known hip hop figure. I don't know if you watched that interview, but she was good friends with Tupac. She helped negotiate Eminem's record deal, Lil Donald's deal. She's worked with quite a few hip hop legends, and we were able to have a good conversation about how Nas's personality compared to Tupac, and she's been around both of them. So it was just it's just amazing just to be able to interview these people and bring that knowledge to people.
Gotcha. Yeah, man, you had some amazing people on there, but one person you forgot to mention was you had Eli from Urban Light. Now that dude right there, I mess with you.
Nah, Eli was I remember we reached out, and I was like, I kind of I was looking at gold and stuff because I started investing in gold, and I was like, and then I saw your channel, and I saw you had some of the same feedback for Dave Ramsey as I did, and I was like, man, I need to reach out to him, see if I can get an interview, and that was really a spark, for the channel for sure. And then it's just been kind of growing from there. I still think my channel's underrated, but it'll get there.
It is underrated. You deserve. I'm looking at the channel. I'm like, man, you deserve way much more than what you have right now. Even though slowly but surely you're getting there, but I'm like, man, this is thousands of hundreds of thousands of people should be watching it because of the value that you're giving on in the channel is awesome. Now, one thing I want to talk about, what really, I know you talked about a little bit on exactly you're getting from how you said you had broke-minded habits. What actually, what was the breaking point where you're like, hey, you know what, I got to get it together, and hey, let me start working on building my wealth? What was that epiphany for you?
That was during the pandemic, when the lockdown started, because it was just so many people that had careers, I was in a career job, and people were losing their jobs, and it was just I felt man, if I can't take care of my family, we don't have an emergency fund, we got $0 in the bank, we're just living paycheck to paycheck, just all of those thoughts were just compiling, and I was like, man, I got to get it together. And then, then learning about more about the financial system and the banking system and all of that and what was actually going on, it even put more fire under my butt, just man, what's going to happen with the economy? What's going to happen with this? Am I going to just be a victim of this, of a collapse or whatever it may be? So even the doom and gloom stuff, it really, it was getting me just focused, just prepare, and And so that was kind of what that pivotal moment.
Hmm. And something that really attracted me to what you said was you didn't really just focus on money. Yeah, of course, money's a byproduct of financial success, but it's not like you really just lingered there and say, hey, you know what, I want money, I just want to make as much money as I possibly can. You understood that, hey, you had to focus on assets as well. It's not just about money. Hey, you wanted to actually own companies, or whether it be real estate. You thought about real estate. You wanted to own gold and silver, as you said.
Yep,
Correct.
yep. Yeah. It was definitely when I began to learn like what inflation was and how the banking system works with fractional reserve lending and kind of just how they use your money to loan out and they make money off your money, but they give you less than 1%, and then inflation's killing your wealth. So once I got into all of that, it was like I need to have my money into like some hard assets such as gold and silver that has a good track record over the years, or be in some stocks where it can actually grow, or even cryptocurrencies where it can grow. And then during that time I also got my real estate license and was able to start building wealth in that area. Going to be renting out my property for the first time, so that's going to be a new kind of phase and whatnot, but hopefully want to get into more of the real estate side too.
No, of course. And now, it's as simple as just, it's easy to just say, yeah, man, buying stocks and buying crypto and buying assets. But I think for me, and I got, this is just me, my opinion and all, I think the reason a lot of people, especially of our color, we'll hear, hey, yeah, man, the stock market, but we also have images of, hey, in 2007, the stock market crashed and a lot of people lost money. We'll hear, yeah, man, hey, buy houses, houses go up over time. And then we'll hear in 2008 how the housing market crashed, or how people lost money buying houses, or how people lost their home. And then we'll hear that and we'll say, hey, you know what? I'd rather just hold the money. But something that the way that you structured your statement just now is really, you're not looking to make a quick buck. You're looking to grow your wealth, and just the way you stated it was more of a, hey, it's not something that, hey, I'm going to buy gold and silver today and make money tomorrow. It's something, hey, I'm going to buy gold and silver today, and over the test of time, it'll be worth more in the future. It's not like, hey, I'm buying this today, and then next week I'm going to have $1 million. So
yeah, exactly.
So I would say it's more of a mindset thing. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would say it's more of a mindset. First I went from, in my younger days, I wanted to get rich, but many people get rich and don't sustain it. How many people blow their money after winning millions of dollars at the lottery after they get this huge tax bill? So, I mean, people get rich, but they don't sustain it. So it's like, okay, building wealth, once I got the understanding of that, it was like, okay, wealth is something that's able to be sustained and stuff. But then, I really just got to the point where I'm just really thinking of the word legacy. And the word legacy just means a whole lot more because it's outside of, it incorporates like wealth, but, it's like, okay, how do I teach my kids about money? How do I teach other folks, educate other people about money? How do I live my life in a way where, eventually I can travel? And, because growing up where I'm from, like, a lot of people don't even travel. Like, me being able to go to Mexico and Hawaii was like a big milestone. But I want to see parts of the world. I want to see places that I see on TV and stuff like that. Like, I want to be able to do that without any restraint, and without, making any poor decisions, like putting it on debt or credit, and stuff like that. So, like, really my mindset is like, because we can't take money to the grave with us, but, if I could leave an inheritance for my kids, that would be great. And even on, my recent interview with Jim Rogers, like, you have multimillionaire, and he's just like, his parents left him and his siblings with the skills and the knowledge to be able to go make something of themselves. And he felt like that was more important to leave to his kids than an inheritance. And so I'm really just shifting my mindset to just not making a quick buck, but like, sustaining wealth over the long term, and making sure that I continue to put, money into assets that are going to appreciate, assets that are going to store value against the dollar depreciating, and be there for my family,
Hmm. Now, see, that's something that a lot of people really don't focus on, and you just mentioned it. You pretty much said it was your mindset. It was the view of money, like, hey, what your money can provide. It was your ideal of like the legacy you want to leave behind. It is that ideal. See, I believe there's three things, but people just really focus on the two. When whatever it be, hey, you're trying to lose weight or you're trying to become financially successful or whatever it may be. I believe there's two things that people really focus on, and that's the action and results. But really, the third thing that you have to implement when you're doing stuff, anything of such criteria, you have to implement the identity behind it, right? Why do people do anything that they do? Why do people work out? Because they have a mental image, they have an ideal of how they should look, or they have a imagination of, hey, what they want to accomplish, right? So it's the ideal. Once I believe this is all purely speculation, in my opinion, of course. Once you have the ideal, or you have the idea of what you want to do, or the mindset, once you have that engraved, then you can apply the action, because now you know what you're going for. You know why you're doing such things, and then the results come later. But mostly people just focus on the action. Hey, you know what? I want to make money. All right, let me just focus on saving money.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Now I saved this much money, but now you're not getting. It's all about the realization of, hey, why I want to save money. What do I want to get accomplished? What do I want out of this? The same thing, and I really realized it when I was working out. I weighed about maybe 250 pounds at one point, and I was just sick and tired of being all slow. I have asthma, and I was afraid that, hey, the older I get, I'm gonna be, maybe some heart failures and things like that. So I wanted to eat right. I wanted to live longer. That was my ideal behind it. And I was like, hey, you know what? I need to lose weight. Then it became me working out each and every day. Then I kept the calendar, kept putting it down. Then it was to the point where, hey, look, I've worked out for the past 2 months, and I crossed out each and every day. Now that became my idea. Hey, I don't want to miss out. So that was my idea. I was working on the mindset behind it, and after all that, I took action, and after all that, then the results came. But people was like, hey, I worked out today. Hey, is my muscles good? Like, how you're gonna do the action, and then you focus on the results. I'm listening to you. I see you have the ideal. I see you have the proper mindset behind it, and of course, it's gonna lead to the results. And you've been seeing that.
Yeah, it's definitely and the Bible influences a lot of like my thought, like in regards to wealth. Sometimes it challenges me to like, okay, well, I lost two good friends of mine, in July, and and I was just like, man, like, this ain't gonna be able to take with me, And so then it got me focusing on like other aspects of life, the spiritual, the mental, emotional, then you got the financial and, all of that. But, and physical, so one thing for me was like, okay, like, for example, the book of Ecclesiastes, that with Solomon, King Solomon had all the wealth, everything. And he was just like, we toil the earth for people to enjoy our wealth, when we die. So then, and then he says it's like meaningless. And so he said, you should drink wine and be merry. So it's like, okay, so that kind of shifted my mindset of like, okay, I'm building all this wealth. Am I just building it for just my kids to enjoy when I'm gone? Or how can I actually enjoy that too? You know what I'm saying? And so like, that's kind of been some of the things like I've been thinking about, and like, obviously, being in the rat race and working for money instead of money working for you is another thing. It's like, okay, well, I want my time freed up. Time is my most valuable asset. And, I'd rather spend my time doing stuff like this, being on YouTube, talking to the people, talking about stuff that I'm passionate about and stuff like that. Not saying that my job isn't important, but what I'm saying is that, I've paid my dues, like I've went from the streets to impacting the community, doing a lot of public speeches, impacting a lot of kids' lives, a lot of people's lives, and helping them. And now it's like, okay, now it's time for me to focus on me and my family, and I need time to do that. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like I just kind of been shifting my mindset to like thinking about my time, thinking about how I can actually benefit from my wealth, as well as, be able to balance that with leaving something for my kids and teaching them and everything. So.
100%, 100%. So what's next? Like, what are your plans as far as what your because clearly you're in the beginning stages, right? You had I think last year, 2020, you had your epiphany, and what are you structuring as far as your life right now?
Yeah, so right now I'm looking at I look at a lot of macro stuff on my channel. I go through the macro and we talk a lot about government debt and stuff. We do get into like specific micro like stock trades and stuff like that, but I love to research like the fundamentals of what's going on. And so right now I'm looking back at my family, and a lot of my family doesn't have retirement. And retirement is a big issue. The average American say they need 1.4 million to retire, but like I think it's like 69% of Americans don't have $1,000 emergency fund. So it's like one of those things. Okay, we got a retirement, crisis, and now I'm looking at like my mom's, my mother-in-law, like they don't got retirement, so like I'm structuring around like doing village economics, like when families, immigrants, immigrant families come over, and you see like all of them were working the same business, all of them were living in the same household, and they'll pull their resources together to be able to prosper. And so like that's kind of like a way that I'm thinking now, because I feel like growing up here in America, like a lot of times we think competitively, and like, so me and my family, we won't come together and pull resources together, and to be able to do stuff. So I'm looking at like, my family setting that up where it's like, okay, well, my in-laws don't got retirement, so we need to find a big crib and just suck it up, move in together, and so that we can all work and contribute and, put money in the pot. So like that's kind of like I'm working on the infrastructure of my family right now, and so that's a big thing. Other things that I'm working on is I'm really researching like emerging markets and opportunities across the globe. So I'm really looking into countries like Singapore, China, Russia, Taiwan, and other countries of where I can invest some of my money to be more diversified. I'm also looking at like, okay, how can I, make my money work for me, such as like monetizing my channel, just being able to get monetized. So it's not, okay, now I need to really pump out content, so I can make that a passive income. And then also, having rental properties and freeing up my time. So those are like some of the major things that I'm working on. It's like, freeing up my time and continuously, implementing what I've been doing, because it's working. Kind of just like, that's kind of like how I've been thinking, is just like, we have an economic collapse. My family, I love my family, my family, that's here and stuff. And it's like, okay, how can we, prepare for that? Do we have food? Do we have basic necessities, emergency stuff, wealth, gold and silver, Bitcoin, whatever's out of the system. Do we have those basic things? Do we got ammo? Do we got guns? Do we got, all that type of stuff. I be processing. So it's just like, I'm really focused on like the infrastructure of our family, and like being able to like, cause a lot of people don't pay attention to stuff like natural disaster or, economic collapse. I mean, you look back at the Great Depression or, whatnot, like how many people were having to get rationed out food, and stuff. And so I really think about the infrastructure of my family too.
No, of course you have to. You definitely have to, especially in a world like this. You never know what's going to happen. Like something I told my to my wife as well, and this was like back in 2015. I was like, hey, you know, we never know what can happen. Let's just prepare for anything. Let's make sure we have money stashed up. Let's make sure, hey, we have food stashed up. And not necessarily saying food, like, hey, let's just make sure we always have food around. Like, hey, you know how to, she knows how to plant, grow food. And like, hey, that's something that can really come in handy one day. And then there's morely of, are you overthinking stuff, you know, until the pandemic came and I was like, hey, I wasn't overthinking, was I? I wasn't overthinking. When I got furloughed, it was crazy because the job I used to work, when they furloughed me, everybody was going to the office like, oh my gosh, we're getting furloughed at a time like this, such and such, such and such. I'm like, hey man, if they happen to call me in the office, this is good. And then the boss calls me in the office and I'm like, okay. And then he's like, hey, I'm so sorry with this and that and this and that. And you know, I'm not saying he was crying, but it looked like he was doing something he didn't want to do because he knows people have lives to live. And I was like, man, it's all good, bro. If that's what you got to do. I just saw it as an extended vacation. Like, yeah, you know. I went home like, hey, man, listen, we ain't got to. I ain't got to go to work. I'm good for the next however long. We're not too sure what's gonna happen. But I don't have to work. I can go to bed tonight, and I was happy about it. Not really happy. I'm just saying I wasn't worried. Like the majority of people who got furloughed at my job was like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? What is this? What is blah, this and that? And I was just more of, it's just another day.
Yeah, it's just another day.
That's how I saw it. But the reason it was like that is because I was prepared for it. And I was well prepared for it. And I never I never missed the bill. I never, all the bill was always paid. Gave the landlord her rent all the time, like early, if anything. So it didn't really affect me, but like I said, it was just because I was well prepared. I was prepared for like I'm talking about like the worst to happen. I don't know. Like I just said, hey, if a nuclear weapon got released on us, I want to be able to survive that. Let me get ready for that. Yeah. So when the pandemic came, it was like, oh, all right, cool, man. It's just all right, we good. Not bragging or anything. It was just that's my mindset. If you prepare for the worst, anything in between is just nothing. I'm not saying it's not nothing, but I'm just, you know what I'm trying to say. If you're preparing to fight Mike Tyson, if you're fighting just a boxer from across the street, all right, you can hang.
That's
that's
real.
just my perspective on that.
Yeah, and I think it's also like a component of we live in a country where we haven't had to be prepared, versus like, other places in the world that have to have prepared or have to have gold, have to have silver, have to have some type of escape plan or whatever, and that reality hit us last year, and we're still experiencing some of that. But, and that's kind of one of the things is like, empires always, they stand, they fall. Like, and this isn't something that I'm taking for granted right now. And I want to make sure that, I act now because at some point the empire will fall, and there's going to be another superpower. There's going to be another, whatever. And I just want to make sure that, when that happens, that I'm prepared. And last year was definitely a wake up call. So definitely.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But it's been an awesome call here with you. I've learned a lot, and like I said, me and you were very similar. We have similar backgrounds. I do want to say thank you so much for taking the time out your day to actually speak with me and speak with us and my audience here. If you guys are watching, make sure you guys subscribe to the Money Level Show. I'm gonna have the link down in the description below. And there are any final words?
Yeah, I would just say, everyone, like the stuff we talked about, I'm sure there's some gems in there that someone can pull out. I just encourage everyone to take this serious and be prepared and focus on, the future and not just the here and now. So
there you go. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Comment your thoughts down in the comments below and have a beautiful day.